اوكي طيب بسم الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وباركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Inshallah, we continue with Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim alayhi rahmatullah in his book Al-Wabil.as-Sayyib alayhi rahmatullah. And he was talking about glorifying Allah's commands and prohibitions. He said that they should not be exposed to exaggeration. And this exaggeration is two ends. The extreme of being too hard or too rough in establishing them, going overboard in a way that one will exit. He will pass the limits. He will exit from the straight path. The other extreme is the extreme of being too easy, too relaxed, in a way that you don't get in the path. You don't get on the straight path. And also he said we should not explain away these commandments. Where is the second speaker? I'm as close as I can. Yani. So the sisters need to get closer to the speaker, inshallah, until another speaker is added in the sisters section, because otherwise they will not be able to hear as they should. The third part was that they should not be giving an explanation or a reason in a way that if one would know the wisdom or the reason behind the legislation, then they will carry out the order. Otherwise, if they don't know the wisdom or they explained that wisdom to be such and such, then if it is not present, then they will not carry out the order or they will not stay away from the prohibition. That is also something that one should not be falling into. That was the last piece that he mentioned. And he gave the example of some of the people who attribute themselves to tasawwuf. Then he started talking about that Allah Azza wa Jal created the human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected him from the rest. Allah, between the creation that he created, he chose and he selected subhanahu wa ta'ala the human being from the rest of the creation. And he made the heart of the human being to be the place of his treasures subhanahu wa ta'ala. The treasures of Iman, faith, Tawheed, his oneness subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Ikhlas, sincerity, Al-Mahabba, love, Al-Haya, shyness, Al-Ta'zeem, glorification of Allah, Al-Muraqabah, being attentive and watchful for what one does. So all of these treasures, the place of them is the heart of the human being. The heart of the human being. Then he subhanahu wa ta'ala made the reward of his servant when he comes to him. He made his reward the best and the most perfect of rewards. And that reward is النظر إلى وجهه, to look at his face subhanahu wa ta'ala, والفوز برضوانه, to achieve the pleasure of Allah, and مجاورته في جنته, to be close to Allah Azza wa Jal in his paradise. subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet, along with this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tested and tried the human beings. Once again, Allah selected the human being from the rest of the creation, made his heart the place of treasures, and made his reward when he meets his Lord to be the best of the rewards. Yet, the Shaykh says, alongside with that, Allah tried, ibtalah, Allah tried the human being with ash-shahwa, desire or lust, al-ghadab, anger, and al-ghafla, negligence, heedlessness, unmindfulness. Allah tested and tried the human being with these three. Also, these three are where? These three are within the self, within the human self, right? These three problems, these three points of trial or testing, they are within the human being himself. Also, Allah tried him with his enemy Iblis. Iblis, لا يفتر عنه. Iblis is always awake and always attentive. He never goes to sleep, or he cools down or take it easy. Right? He's always after the human being, always active, never in a state of inactivity or tiredness, weariness. So the shaitan enters upon the human being from these doors. These doors, the three that he mentioned: the desire, the anger, and the unmindfulness. The shaitan enters on the human being from these three doors, which are from his own self, from his own nature, من نفسه وطبعه. So his self or his soul kind of goes with it, or it inclines to those things. That is because the shaitan enters upon the self from the doors that it likes. So the shaitan agrees along with the self of the person and his desires. All those three gathered together. He said, ثلاثة مسلطون آمرون. Three things that are on his case, basically. They are after him. So these three, they cause the body parts, al-jawarih, they cause the body parts to achieve their objectives, their goals. Whatever they want from the human will do with his body parts. For al-jawarih, those body limbs or parts, they are like a tool or an instrument that will follow the orders, right? Munqada. So the body parts cannot do anything but follow and obey these commandments that are coming from these three: the nafs, the self, al-hawa, desire, and the third one is the shaitan, right? So this is the case of these three. This is the battle, basically. Those three with the body parts. The body parts will continue to obey them however they command them, and wherever they direct them. أينما يمموا. Wherever they direct them to go, they will go, the body parts. So the self, which has these three problems, once again, the desire, let me use the lusts and the temptations, right? Let me use that for the desire. Lusts, right? Or last time we used appetites. Some of you, I found it, they liked that, the shahwa, appetites. You have an appetite for this, for that, right? This is just to distinguish it from the word desire, which is hawa we will use, right? So you have those appetites, you have the anger, and you have the unmindfulness, ghafla. Those three, which are weaknesses within the human self. Then you have the second enemy, the shaitan, And the third enemy is the hawa, following desires. Right? Following desires. Right? طيب. So these three, they take control, or they overtake the human, and they make the body parts serve them, basically. Just follow their commandments. He said this is what the situation of the servant is. So the mercy of his Lord, Al-Aziz Ar-Rahim bihi, the Lord who is almighty, the Lord who is very merciful and kind, very merciful and kind towards his servant. His mercy necessitated that Allah would help him. Allah would help him with other soldiers, jundin akhar. Allah will help him with other soldiers, and He would supply him with other supplies by which he can fight this enemy, or these soldiers that want to destroy him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to him His messenger and sent down upon him His book. And He supported him with a noble angel facing his enemy, Ash-Shaytan Ar-Rajim. So when the shaitan commands him with a command, then the angel orders him to follow the commands of his Lord. And he clarifies to him what is involved in obeying the enemy of the destruction. What kind of a destruction you will be in if you follow your enemy. So هذا يلم به مرة وهذا مرة. So sometimes the shaitan overtakes, and sometimes it is the angel that overtakes. وَالْمَنْصُورُ مَنْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. The one who is victorious is the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given victory عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. وَالْمَحْفُوظُ مَنْ حَفِظَهُ اللَّهُ. مَنْ حَفِظَهُ اللَّهُ. The one who is protected is the one whom Allah gives protection. He says that He made for him to face, as an opposite of the evil self, the self that commands him to do evil, النفس الأمارة. Allah has given him a soul that is a comfortable or peaceful, tranquil soul, a tranquil soul, نفس مطمئنة. If the evil self that commands him to do evil commands him with something, then the tranquil soul will forbid him from that. And if the evil soul forbids him from doing good, then the tranquil soul will command him to do it. So he sometimes obeys this one time he will obey this soul, and the other time he will obey the other soul. You have an evil soul, nafs ammara bis-su, a self that always commands one to do evil. And you have a soul that is a tranquil one, mutma'inna, nafsun mutma'inna. It orders him to the opposite, the goodness. So sometimes, one time he will obey this one, the other time he will obey the other one. وَهُوَ لِلْغَالِبِ عَلَيْهِ مِنْهُمَا. He will be under the control of the one of these two souls that will control, that will beat up the other one. Because these two souls, they are always against each other. He said, رُبَّمَنْ قَهَرَتْ إِحْدَاهُمَا بِالْكُلِّيَّةِ قَهْرًا لَا تَقُومُ مَعَهُ أَبَدًا. Maybe one of these two souls, it will be beaten up completely in a way that it will never stand again. Someone who has a very tranquil soul is so strong that it wiped out the evil commanding soul. Or it's the opposite. Someone who's so evil, having so evil self, that will be so strong that it will annihilate, it will wipe out the tranquil soul or the tranquil self. Right? So with the shaitan, you have the other opposite. You have the angel. and the evil commanding self, you have the tranquil self, right? And he said, he made for him, opposing al-hawa in the face of desires, he made for him a light and insight. This desire, it will basically push him to obey the shaitan and also to obey his evil commanding soul. So against this desire, hawa, Allah made for him nuran wa basiratan wa aqlan. Allah made for him light, insight, and also a mind, sound mind, wisdom. He gave him wisdom. This will push him or will stop him from going along with desires or following desires. So every time he wants to go along with the desire, the aql, the sound mind, the intellect, the wisdom, the basira, the insight, and the light that he has, it will call upon him, saying, Al-Hadar, Al-Hadar. Take precautions, beware and beware. فإن المهالك والمتالف بين يديك. Destruction, places where you will be completely wiped out, are in front of you. وأنت صيد الحرامية. These are the words of Ibn al-Qayyim. You know, the word harami is, I think, is famous, right? Is originally meant for the one who does al-haram, does something that is haram, right? So he's harami, is referred to the haram. But then it's generally used for the criminals, which some of us call them, or thieves or robbers, which some of us call them Ali Baba, right? So al-haramiyah, he said, you are now the prey of those evil criminals. Beware for yourself. Be watchful, because you are. This is now the sound of the sound intellect, the sound of wisdom and light that Allah has given him, telling him, don't go after your desires, because you will be destroyed. Because the robbers and the thieves, evil people, will take control of you. قطاع الطريق, people who are robbers who will cut off the roads for you. If you go after this, then you will be in captivity. So he said, يطيع الناصح مرة. Sometimes he will listen to the one advising him. So he will show him guidance and he will advise him, and he will go after that, he will accept it. And sometimes he will go after the proof of the desires, or the color of the desires. Sometimes he will go after that. فَيُقْطَعُ عَلَيْهِ الطَّرِيقِ. When he follows his desires, now the road will be cut off for him. يُؤْخَذُ مَالُهُ. His money will be taken away. وَيُسْلَبُ ثِيَابَهُ. He will be also losing his clothes. And then he says, تُرَى مِنْ أَيْنَ أُتِيتَ. He is like wondering, how is it that I was, I am in this situation now. The robbers, they cut off the road, they took my money, they took my clothes, and now, he is in a very bad situation. He is asking himself now, how is it that I was attacked and was taken like that? Al-Ajab, what is so amazing, the Sheikh said, is that he knows where he was attacked, or how he was attacked. He knows. And he knows the way, or he knows the road. He knows the road where he was robbed. التي قطعت عليه. And he was attacked in. He knows the road where he was taken. But he refuses except to walk on the same road again. يأبى إلا سلوكها. That is because the proofs or the evidence for treading that path is so strong. It took control of him, and if he weakened this, if he weakened it by opposing, if he weakened his desire by opposing it, بالمخالفة له, by shunning it when it calls him to do something, by fighting against him, right? By fighting against him, then he will not be the desire, this desire, the call of desire will not be able to snatch him. But then he is the one who gave up himself to his desire. هو الذي مكن نفسه من الهوى. He is the one who gave up himself to it, and he gave him his hand. He gave him his hand, right? He gave him his hand. So he is like the situation of a man who places his hand in the hand of his enemy. يضع يده في يد عدوه. He places his hand in the hand of his enemy. So his enemy now, he takes him into captivation. He captivates him. Then he starts torturing him severely. يسومه سوء العذاب. So he is calling for rescue, but then he doesn't receive any rescue. This is the situation with the servant of Allah, the abd, when he makes himself the captive of the shaitan. He puts himself in captivation for the shaitan. يستأثر للشيطان. He gives up himself to be a captive for the shaitan and for his desire and for his evil commanding soul. Then after that he tries to seek salvation, khalas, to be saved, trying to save himself, but then he is incapable of that. So since the servant was tried with whatever he was tried with, which all the human beings are sharing this trial, so he was helped. He was helped by the soldiers, by the weapons, by the forts, and he was told, the human being was told, so now you have those three enemies, and you have those helpers and things of assistance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So this is a trial for every human being. So since this was the case, the enemies are known, and the means to fight those enemies are there, the support is there, right? He says the human being was told, قاتل عدوك وجاهده, fight your enemy, strive against him. فهذه الجنود خذ منها ما شئت. Here are the soldiers, take whatever you want of them. وهذه العدد البس منها ما شئت. Here is the weapons or the armors, wear and take whatever you want. And here are the forts. هذه الحصون. Here are the forts. تحصن منها بأي حصن شئت. Fortify yourself in any fortress that you want. ورابط إلى الموت. Stay in a state of jihad, standing at the enemy line. This is ribat. Ribat is when someone, a soldier, is at the borderline of the enemies, protecting the Muslims, right? So he says, here are the soldiers, here are the weapons, and here are the forts. Use whatever you want of these and stay in a state of war with those enemies. إلى الموت, up until you die, up until you die. فالأمر قريب, for the affair is very close, very short. This worldly life is short. مدة المرابطة يسيرة جدا. The time in which you will be striving at the borderline with the enemy, that time period is very short. And almost you are going to be, and very soon, you are going to be facing the great king. He would be sending to you his messengers, so they will remove you. They will transport you to his abode, and you will be resting, استرحت. You will be resting from this endless striving. This short period of time, meaning all your life, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the king, the great king, after he receives you, he will separate between you and your enemy, and you will be left to enjoy in his house of honor. You go around, you enjoy whatever you wish there. And your enemy will be jailed in the worst and the most difficult type of jails. And you are actually seeing him, you can view him in that jail, in that prison. That prison which your enemy wanted you to go into that prison. Right? You are watching him being there, and the doors are completely locked on him. And he is in a state of despair from leaving, and in a state of despair from any type of relief, while you are enjoying yourself, whatever you like, whatever your the coolness of your eye, you are completely satisfied as a reward for your patience for that time period which is short, which is yasira. And because you لزومك الثغرة للرباط, for you standing at the borderline as a warrior, as a mujahid. And it wasn't but just ساعة, يعني 1 hour. It's like 1 hour. Then it has ended, and the difficulty as if it didn't happen at all. The difficulty you went through as if it didn't happen at all. He said, if the human self and nafs, if it was weak to witness or to notice how short the time period is of this worldly life and how fast it will elapse, then one should reflect on the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, كأنهم يوم يرونها أو كأنهم يوم يرون ما يوعدون لم يلبثوا إلا ساعة من نهار. Surah Al-Ahqaf 35. As if on the day when they see what they have been promised, it's as if they haven't stayed يعني in this worldly life except ساعة من نهار, 1 hour of a day. Also another ayah, Surah An-Nazi'at 46, كأنهم يوم يرونها لم يلبثوا إلا عشية أو ضحاها. It is as if when they see it, يعني the day of judgment, it's as if they did not stay, that is in the worldly life, except an evening or a morning. Except an evening or a morning. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قال كم لبثتم في الأرض عدد سنين قالوا لبثنا يوما أو بعض يوم فاسأل العادين قال إن لبثتم إلا قليلا لو أنكم كنتم تعلمون. Surah Al-Mu'minun 112-114. Allah says, how did you stay on earth? How many years in numbers? How many years you have stayed on earth? They say, we stayed 1 day or part of a day, so ask those who count. He says, rather, you only stayed very little. If you are, if you would know, you only stayed very little. If you would know, if only you know. Also, Allah Azza wa Jal said, Surah Taha 102, 104, up to 104, يوم ينفخ في الصور. This is about the blowing in the trumpet. ونحشر المجرمين يومئذ زرقا. We gather the criminals on that day blue-eyed, because of the severity of what they are going through. Yani. Not as some said that the Europeans, you have blue eyes, so they will be, right? It doesn't matter if your eyes are blue or something else, right? But this is blue eyes because of the problems and the severe things that they see on the day of judgment. يتخافتون بينهم إن لبثتم إلا عشرة. They whisper between themselves, saying, you never stayed except for 10. 10 days only. That's how they think. Then Allah says, we are most knowledgeable of what they say when the best of them says, you only stayed for one day. In labithtum illa yawman. You only stayed for one day. The Prophet ﷺ gave a speech one day, and his companions, and the sun was on the top of the mountains, the tops of the mountains, and that was about the time of sunset. So he said to them, alayhi salatu wassalam, surely nothing is left of the worldly life compared to what has elapsed, except like what has passed of your day, except like what has passed of your day compared except for what has remained of your day compared to what has passed. Yani, he was standing, it was about sunset. He says, what is left, he said alayhi salatu wasalam to the companions, what is left of the dunya compared to what has passed is like what is left of the day compared to what has passed. Yani, the sun is about to set. Yani, the time that is left of the dunya is very short. Yani, and Allah knows how long it will be. This is 15 centuries ago. We are still in that comparison that Rasulullah ﷺ made between how much passed of the day and how much is left. Al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim said, let the one who is wise, the one who is giving sincere advice to his own self, let him reflect and ponder about this hadith, and let him know what did he achieve in this time that has been left from this dunya, all of it, so that he will know. And how much did he achieve in this time that's very short, that is left? It's a remainder of what remained of the dunya, right? He said, so that he will know that he is really in deception, and he is really in confused dreams, adghathu ahlam, right? That's what he is living. He's living some sort of a confused dream, and that he has sold the happiness of the forever, and the endless happiness and the bliss that is continuous, that will never end. He sold that off with a very despicable share, or very cheap share, that doesn't equal anything, has no value. And if he sought Allah Ta'ala and the last day, then Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will give him his share, full and noble and honorable, and better than being busy with the worldly affairs. And he mentioned that some of the reports, it is said that, O son of Adam, sell off your share of the worldly life with that, get that, purchase the next life instead, and you will win both of them. You will win both of them. And do not sell the next life for this dunya, because you will lose both of them. And he mentions one report from the pious predecessors that says, O son of Adam, you are in need of your share of the worldly life, and you are to your share of the next life actually more in need of that. You are in need of your share of your worldly life, but you are even more needy. You are even more needy to your share of the next life, So if you started with your share of the worldly life, then you will lose your share of the next life, and you will be, regarding your share of the worldly life, you will be ala khatarin adim. You will be in a very dangerous spot, right? If you start with your worldly share, right? If you start with your worldly share, you lose your share of the next life. And this share of the worldly life, you might not get it also. It's not like guaranteed. You might start seeking it, but you might not get it in the end. But you're sure you lost your share of the next life. He says, and if you start with your share of the next life, then pass by your share of the worldly life and take it, snatch it. فانتظمه انتظاما. And he mentions a statement of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah in his speech, and we'll mention that. We'll just stop there, inshallah. And this is again an advice about the same subject, the worldly life and the next life. He says in his speech, radiallahu anhu, rahimahullah, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, O people, you were not created in vain. لم تخلقوا عبثا. And you are not left, لم تتركوا سدى. You are not left just like that without being commanded. You're not left without commands. And surely you have an appointed term for the next life. Ma'ad, you will be returned to the next life. Allah will gather you in it to judge between you and to judge regarding you and judge between you. Yani that time, the day of judgment, Allah will judge the people. Every person will be judged. And also there will be judgment to decide between people who are in a dispute. So you will be judged yourselves, and those disputes between you, there will be a judgment regarding them. He said, خاب وشقي عبد أخرجه الله عز وجل من رحمته التي وسعت كل شيء. The person who fails, the person who is shaqi, will be from the sad ones, is the one whom Allah expelled him from His mercy that has encompassed everything. The one who is sad and the one who failed is the one whom Allah has expelled him from His mercy that has encompassed, that has surrounded everything. Allah has expelled him from His Jannah, His paradise, التي عرضها السماوات والأرض, whose width extends the heavens and the earth. He said that إنما يكون الأمان غدا لمن خاف الله تعالى واتقى. Safety and security will be tomorrow for the one who feared Allah and was God conscious. باع قليلا بكثير. He sold what is little to achieve what is a lot. فانيا بباق. He sold something that is going to perish with something that is going to be everlasting. شقاوة بسعادة. He sold sadness for the happiness. He said, don't you see that you are within the people who die? You are moving from the loins, from between the loins of the people who are dying, halikin. They die one after the other. And you have a father, and before that there is a father, and you are a father of someone, and then you will die, and that son will have, and so on and so forth. So you are moving between the loins, in aslab al-halikin, between those people who are perishing. And سيخلفكم بعدكم الباقون. After you pass away, you will be replaced, or those who remain, they will succeed you. You will be succeeded by those who remain. You pass away, and those who are after you, they will stay. Don't you see that you are every day, you are تشيعون غاديا رائحا إلى الله قد قضى نحبه. Every day you are sending away. You are walking basically in the funeral of someone who is treading his path to Allah. قضى نحبه. He has fulfilled his appointed term, and انقطع أمله. His hopes are finished, are completely cut off and severed. You place him in a crack. تضعونه في بطن صدع من الأرض. You put him inside of a crack, a hole that you dig of the ground. غير موسد ولا ممهد. He doesn't have in there, he doesn't have a pillow, and the bed is not really prepared for him. It's not like a nice bed that is being prepared in there. قد خلع الأسباب. He left all the means that he had. وفارق الأحباب. He departed away from his beloved ones. وواجه الحساب. And he is facing the reckoning, facing the condition of being held accountable. The Shaykh goes on to say, the objective here is to say that Allah Azza wa Jal has supported the servant in this very short time period. Allah supported him with soldiers, with weapons, and with supplies. And He clarified to him how he would protect himself, from his enemy, and how he would even set himself free if he was held in captivity. Right? So let's just in summary what was said today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected the human being from all of the creation, and He placed His treasures, the treasures of Iman, right? He placed those treasures in the heart of the human being, and He made the reward for His servant when he comes to Him. He made it to be the best reward, paradise, enjoyment in it, and the best of enjoyment is looking at Allah's face subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the human has within him three weaknesses that is part of his nature, which are the lusts or the appetites, the shahwa, right? He has within him also the anger, and he has within him also unmindfulness, the ghafla, negligence, right? These are his three weaknesses. The shaitan uses these three weaknesses to make him slip and fall, right? So he has the self itself, it has its weaknesses, and he has the shaitan, his enemy, and he has also the desires, tiba' al-hawa, following desires. Those are the three main enemies of the human being. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him help and assistance to face all these three. So in terms of the evil commanding soul, an-nafs al-ammara bis-su', right? This is the term that is used in the Quran. Evil commanding soul. So against this one, he has a tranquil soul. Nafs mutma'inna, also used in the Quran. Ya ayyatuha nafs al-mutma'inna. Right? The tranquil soul opposes that. Right? And then the shaitan, to face that, you have the angel. Right? And as for following desires, following the call to desires, you have, in opposite to that, you have aql, nur, basira. You have the sound mind, sound intellect, you have insight, and you have the light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants the human being. So He said that those three are fighting with those three, and whoever beats the other will be the winner. And the human being sometimes he goes this way, sometimes he goes the other way. Sometimes he follows the shaitan, sometimes he follows the angel. Sometimes he follows the evil commanding soul, sometimes he follows the tranquil soul. Sometimes he follows his insight and sound intellect and nur, light, and sometimes he will go after his desires. Sometimes he will go after his desires. Allah Azza wa Jal then supplied the human being with the weapons. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supplied him with forts, right? And He supplied him with the soldiers. And the human being, in this time span that he's living, as the Sheikh is giving that picture, he is in jihad. He is in a ribat. He is at the borderline with the enemies. And it's a short period of time. If you take control of that and be a warrior till the end, then you will be rewarded. Because it is actually a very short time period. And he mentioned the ayat from the Quran talking about the life and how short it is. And he gave the example that Rasulullah ﷺ gave in the hadith of how short life is. And he says, so the time is short. Just remain in your post, remain in your position against the enemy, right? Until the time comes, your appointed term comes, and then you will be rewarded. And then he mentioned those reports from the pious predecessors, basically saying to give more importance, give more focus on your share of the next life. Start with it. You need your share of the worldly life, but then start with the next life. Make sure, guarantee that share, and then you pass by and you get your share of this worldly life. He put this as an introduction because he will be talking about and explaining in detail the hadith in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad from the narration of Al-Harith Al-Ash'ari alayhi rahmatullah radiyallahu anhu ardah, and inshallah he will explain it. And within that hadith it will mention some of the tools that you can use to save and protect yourself from those enemies. I will stop here, inshallah. We have 5 minutes to Salat al-Isha. We can call the adhan.